This is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and you're listening to the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. Isn't that a beautiful song? The band is called the Suddenlies, and the song is You Bring Me Home. I thought that was a nice intro for us today because today we're talking about how to create an emotional home base in your relationship through using love languages. Yes, everyone, it is time to talk about love languages. And so the term love languages, it refers to how you feel love, how you show love. And it's kind of gotten a bad rap over the years, but I think not the level of respect that it truly deserves, because I think it's emerged as this sort of like fluffy pop psych concept, that's sometimes gotten played down by real therapists who are much more interested in talking about mental illness and psychopathology. But that's not what we're doing here. The Love, Happiness, and Success podcast is all about helping you be happy and have great relationships and feel good about yourself and your life. And although I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm also a board certified life coach, which means that I want to do what works and bring that to you. And love languages are incredibly powerful and effective when you learn how to deploy them for forces of good in your own relationship. And it's really incredibly important to know how to do this because as a marriage counselor, so here at Growing Self Counseling and Coaching, I am often working with couples who, at least when they start with me for couples counseling or relationship coaching, they're not feeling good about their relationship, Neither of them often are feeling really loved or respected or understood or appreciated by their partner. And unfortunately, in the absence of that kind of positive relational energy, people can start to develop this narrative as to why, that helps them make sense of what's going on in their relationship. And so it turns into thoughts about, well, my partner is avoidant. They're emotionally stunted. They can't communicate. They had a critical mother, therefore, XYZ. Or even worse, if it's been going on for a long time, they might begin to really genuinely believe that my partner is a fundamentally uncaring person and we are incompatible. Maybe they're on the autism spectrum. Like I literally have heard people in garden variety relationships with partners who are objectively not autistic, but it's like they are feeling so unloved and disconnected in their relationship that they're trying to find reasons why it feels so hard between them. And so they can go into all kinds of places. So big, sweeping statements about their partner's fundamental character flaws, right, can obscure this much, much simpler and much more manageable idea is that perhaps your partner and you have different love languages. And that, my friends, is a solvable problem as soon as you can figure that out. And there are very specific and relatively easy things that you can both do to completely transform the way that you both feel in your relationship through intentionally using different love languages. So this is really important. And I'm going to spend some time first talking about love languages. There are several different kinds of love languages. And then I am going to give you a love language quiz so that you can answer a few simple questions and think through them. And through that exercise, get a fair amount of clarity around what your most important love language or love languages, there can be more than one, but what those are for yourself. And moment of truth, also what your partner's love languages are. With that clarity, you can then begin using these ideas in your relationship as soon as today. By the end of this episode, I hope that you have more insight into this and some ideas about how to use it. So let's just dive right in. So, first of all, I'm going to briefly talk about the different types of love languages just to give you an overview and also just talk about how differences between them can create hurt feelings, let's say, or disappointment and expectations in a relationship, because this happens all the time. So I think we can agree that we all have ways of feeling loved that are meaningful to us specifically. So, like, for example, some people experience love and connection the most when they're engaged in activities with their partner. And even more interestingly, some kinds of activities elicit more feelings of love and connection because of the activity itself. For other people, that doesn't mean a thing. Others may feel really loved and appreciated when their partners are telling them that they are loved and appreciated, or saying, complimentary things, or, letting them know that they are attractive to them, which is very different. And then other people, they don't feel loved unless it is a thoughtful gift that someone has shown them, that they were thinking about them very thoughtfully and turning their, understanding of the most important things into a gift or an experience that was sort of designed and curated just for them. That is how they feel loved. And so many different ways of doing this. And who's right? Like, what's the right way to give and receive love? And the fact is that they're all the right way. But couples can get into very vicious and painful fights about whose way is the right way when they are different within a relationship. And that just boils down to the fact that we're all individuals. We all have a set of life experiences, family of origin cultures that shaped us, and particularly how we relate to others. And so depending on the way you learned what, air quote, being loved means in action, you won't feel deeply loved and cared for unless love is being spoken to you and shown to you in your language. And so hence the term, of course, love language. And so this phrase, it was coined by a guy named Gary Chapman in the 90s. He wrote a book, The 5 Love Languages, and he proposed in his original work that there were primarily 5 love languages. There was quality time, which is doing things together, physical touch, which can range from hand-holding to hugs to sexual intimacy, gift giving, acts of service, meaning doing things that need to be done without being asked, and also words of affirmation. So praise, affectionate statements, compliments. And he found 5. I actually, in my experience, I think that there are 2 others. I think that there's this sort of planning and building component that's important in many relationships. And there is also emotional intimacy, which is incredibly important for many people. And I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't in Gary Chapman's book. Maybe emotional intimacy was so far away from his own personal love languages that it wasn't even on his radar. Perhaps, but it's very true for many people. And so we're going to be talking about it on today's show, just in case it's yours. So the first thing to know about love languages that is going to change everything is the central idea that all humans are vulnerable to believing that other people are pretty much the same as we are. We have things going on in our own minds and our own emotions that make sense to us, and therefore we sort of project onto others that the same things are true for them. And this causes all kinds of problems in many different aspects of human relationships, but certainly with couples, is when people assume that love means the same thing to both of you. And that if you love having sex with your partner and you feel so connected and like close to them, and they don't always want to do that with you, if you don't understand that they have different ways of experiencing sexuality or feeling loved, it's like, well, why? Why don't they want to do that? Do they not love me anymore? Are they not attracted to me anymore? Why don't they want to be emotionally close to me? And it's because it doesn't mean the same thing to them as it does to you. But the risk here is that there's a lot of personalization that goes into that assumption and a lot of hurt feelings. In contrast, like if one person feels that sexuality and romantic evenings are like the pinnacle of connection, and they are partnered with someone whose number one love language is acts of service and is like really wanting material help in getting things done around home improvement projects or childcare, or just like taking care of business, that you're both going to feel really annoyed and disappointed with each other because you're wanting things from each other that like almost don't compute. I mean, like, yes, you might understand that your partner would really like to be intimate with you, but you don't understand why. And vice versa, that your partner really wants to clean the garage like all day on Saturday, and they want you to be like excited and show up and like proactive. And they may not understand that that act of service is like the third ring of hell for you. It is not something that you enjoy. And it's certainly not something that you associate with love and respect and like the fabric of your relationship. And so when there's conflict around that or pushback or like, oh, do we have to? Your partner might feel like, what do you mean, do we have to? Am I alone in this life? Where are you? What are we doing together? Like it turns into this big existential relationship threat that you will have no idea about. And there's this ferocious anger coming at you all of a sudden. And they're like, well, why are we even doing this together? That can be really surprising unless you understand how deeply these roots go into attachment and love and what love means. So in contrast, if couples don't understand what's going on, they will be blindsided all the time by these weird reactions and people getting extremely upset about things that seem sort of mysterious. Like, what? I just said I didn't feel like going on a hike today. Why are you like crying all of a sudden? They don't really know. But if you understand that your partner's love language is something and they were just like reaching out to you in a very vulnerable way, like it felt to them like this moment of connection. If you understand that that's what's going on, you will know how to handle these things completely differently, and you will begin knowing how to really give your partner that love and affection in the way that is most meaningful to them. Not only will you stop having these like surprising fights that seem to come out of nowhere, your relationship will feel so much stronger and better for both of you. Because, let's face it, we're all really craving love. We all just want to feel cared for and understood and loved and respected. And knowing what that means to your partner is the path to creating the kind of relationship that you want. So first of all, my first tip is don't assume that you know what your partner's love language is, or that it is, or that it should be similar to yours. Just you take one thing away from this podcast, let it be this idea that what is important and meaningful to you does not have to be important or meaningful to someone else. But in a loving, committed relationship, even if your partner doesn't experience things in exactly the same way that you do, if it's important to you, they need to at least respect that it is important to you and be willing to go along with it because it is important to you. It does not have to be as personally important to them. It's absolutely okay for you guys to be different individuals with complementary strengths in a vibrant relationship. The key to compatibility is not twinship. It is not being the same. It is respecting and appreciating each other for your differences, right? So let's do a quick run through of the main types of love languages, just to give you an overview. First of all, there are words of affirmation. And this means that people really feel loved when there is verbal acknowledgement of feelings of they feel loved when you say, I love you, literally. Or, hey, you look great today. Compliments, appreciative statements. Oh my gosh, this was the most amazing dinner I've ever had. Thank you so much for making this. I really appreciate this. And for your partner to feel loved by you, they need to be hearing this. If it is hard for you to say these kinds of things out loud, you might consider a little card or a letter or a text message even counts, but it's like, how do I make my feelings for them, my appreciation for them overt in language, verbal language? If it doesn't happen in verbal language, it doesn't mean the same thing because it's their love language. And so if over the course of this podcast, you learn that this is your partner's main love language, you can't also just like do it one time and then think, oh, well, I told them that I loved them in 2017. So they know. It has to be frequent, like daily, multiple times a day. They need to be hearing from you how great you think they are. So let that idea sink in, especially if you're not naturally a verbally expressive person. That one can be a little challenging. But again, lots of things can change if you learn how to do that well. Another love language is gift giving. If your partner's love orientation is built around gifts, you will probably have experienced from them what it feels like to be presented with something from them. Because, the other thing about love languages is that people, your partner, is probably showing you what their love language is by the way they treat you. So like going back to the first one, if your partner is following you around all the time, like telling you how great you are and how much they love you, there's a good chance that their love language are words of affirmation. And if your partner gives you presents or is like, doing amazing things and jumping out of a cake on your birthday, like their primary love orientation is probably gift giving. And so think about if your partner is doing this, what it feels like to get a present from them. It's probably very nicely wrapped. It is probably thoughtful. They have probably spent a lot of time thinking about what you might like. That would signify something special between the two of you, framing the concert tickets from your first date and wrapping it up and giving it to you on your anniversary. Like that is the kind of thing that a gift-giving person would do. And it is going to be important for you to do some of that for them. And I also just want to say out loud right here, don't confuse gift with expense. There does not need to necessarily be a monetary component to gift giving, although for some people that come from some, families of origin, the expense of the gift actually does matter. So I'll leave it to you to think through whether or not that might be true for your partner. But generally speaking, the gifts that are most meaningful and valued are the ones that come through your thought and from your effort, not from your wallet. And this one can be a tough one because if your partner has a strong gift-giving orientation and you don't, this can be a big step. Like, for example, thankfully, neither my husband and I are huge gift-giving people. I am anti-gift giving. I do not like it when people give me presents. I don't know what it is. I feel uncomfortable and okay, thank you. But I don't love it. And so if I were partnered with somebody who really needed gifts and thoughtful, curated things from me, I would have to spend a lot of time and energy on that and be very intentional with how I do that. So I just say that out loud to highlight the fact that sometimes it's a stretch if your partner has a way of feeling loved that's very, very different from yours. Another important and I think under-noticed love language for many people are acts of service. And I think what that stems from is this feeling that you're together on the same team. You're working together on this shared life, and there are a set of responsibilities that have to be managed for that. And that when they feel helped by you in material ways, it is very loving for them. And I think that this is an interesting one because it can evolve over time. So, for example, and this is like super stereotypical, okay, but like for a couple to meet and connect in their early 20s and they're off, going and doing fun things together and concerts and motorcycle rides and having a good time, like that feels like what the fabric of a relationship is built on, is having a good time together, having experiences, because that's really what fits for that phase of life. And as relationships evolve over time and mature and the circumstances of life become different, so particularly as people get older and maybe their relationship expands to include a family and a house to maintain and jobs to juggle to pay for the family and the house and just mountains of stuff and a social life. And now the kid is in T-ball. It's like, there's just so much stuff that feels legitimately overwhelming for many people. And in this new kind of context, acts of service can become the most significant ways that people feel loved and respected and appreciated by each other. It's almost like being seen, like, oh my God, I'm drowning. And so for a partner to take the initiative to notice that the windshield wiper blades need to be replaced, and without asking anybody, just go ahead and do that. Order them on Amazon. They come to the house. They're now on the car without somebody having to say, oh my God, the windshield wiper blades. Like it's amazing. And that is very, very meaningful for a lot of people. But this is also a very humble love language, and it is easily missed because it might not seem directly related to your partner's heart. But, for an overwhelmed 8-armed dervish of a working parent to have somebody else just notice, like, oh, you know what? That laundry needs to be folded and put away, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. They could fall into your arms weeping with gratitude. And I will also just say that research backs this one up. There is now research that shows, and this is, again, my apologies for any of my same-sex couple friends, but in heterosexual relationships, there is a direct correlation between the level of egalitarianism in a relationship, meaning that men and women share the burden of childcare, housework, stuff together, direct correlation between that and sexual intimacy and relationship satisfaction. So what that means in layperson's terms is that when men vacuum, there is more sex. And this is not, I want to just remove this idea that there's sort of like a reward punishment thing going on, like, oh, you're a good boy, I'm going to have sex with you now. That is not it. And I don't want you to think it is. What is true is that when men are more deeply involved and equivalent partners when it comes to running a life, there is this natural feeling of love and feeling respected and appreciated. And also in practical terms, more energy to be intimate compared to, say, a, stereotypical, again, my apologies, but, working mom who comes home and does a second shift and now has to vacuum and fold the laundry and is falling into bed at 11 o'clock at night, like just exhausted. There isn't any margin left for sexual intimacy compared to a relationship, with a partner who did all the stuff and now they can both go together, go to bed together at 9. So, there's very real aspects of this that can strengthen a relationship enormously for both people. So I just want you to think about that. Another important love language is that of quality time. So quality time people feel loved by you when you are together out in the world and doing fun things, and also fun things that are fun for them many times. And so they are probably craving magical moments with you where you're doing something and there's like shared enjoyment. And for some couples, and this is going to be a little bit different depending on the personality and the culture of your relationship, but for some, and particularly if you have a partner who likes adventure and travel, like, doing something interesting or fun or new will be very, very meaningful for them when you're like their adventure buddy. And I think it's partly like a shared experience that feels like a bonding moment, but also opportunities to have conversations or learn about something new together or make a memory, a memorable memory, right? Together. It feels connecting to them. And I think it touches this kind of deep level is this sense that you're partners in crime, and that you get them and that there are things that they like to do that are important to them, and to be able to share them with you, their number one person, is very, very meaningful. And so if your partner is one of those active people who really likes doing special things, it's important for you to take the initiative and make some plans that are in alignment with their interests. And while it's always helpful to make it fun, I think that there is also opportunity to have those points of connection in more kind of banal day-to-day activities. Like, for some people, going to the grocery store together or watching a show together. That's a very small, subtle thing, but you're still sharing the experience and having the opportunity to talk about things and ride in the car on the way there and back. For some very efficient families, that turns into this divide and conquer. Like, okay, I'll watch the kids. You go to Target, and then we're going to do this. But it creates a lot of separation. And while it can be efficient and get things done, it misses these natural opportunities for time together, like on just a day-to-day basis. Eating meals together might actually be really important to your partner who is oriented in this way. And then, of course, sprinkling in magical moments and genuinely fun and interesting, exciting things are really fun too. So, yay. And we have to mention that physical touch is an extremely important love language for many people. And for some people, it's really one of the only ways that they really, really feel loved and cared for is by literally feeling you. Having you hold their hand or give them a big hug or kiss or spend an intimate evening with them, that's when they feel that you are connected, that you're a couple, that you're in this together, and that there's this bond. And, for some people, you can tell them that you love them 1,000 times and buy them presents and go on trips, but they just don't feel special unless you are hugging them and, holding their hand and giving them a squeeze. And it's really important to them. And it must be acknowledged. And it must be honored too, I think, because it's really important. And I will say, sexual intimacy can be very, very important to physically oriented types, but it's also important to not always make sex the goal or outcome or physicality, because when that happens, it can actually limit sort of day-to-day kind of natural, affectionate physical touching, because if every little interaction needs to turn into sexual intercourse, then people will begin avoiding that. So you'll have less hugs and less kisses and more kind of physical distance, because cuddling on the couch will always turn into having sex. And so I think we need to have flexibility around that for both partners, because that can sort of unintentionally damage sexual intimacy when there's this pressury feeling. But so to even acknowledge that and practice having a lot of non-sexual touching and physical intimacy built into your relationship. And another little fun fact is that if your partner is very physically oriented, in addition to physical affection and intimacy, it may show up in other ways. They may be very environmentally sensitive, want to be in beautiful spaces. They may be foodies, really into tastes and textures and smells and clothing. And there's this whole physicality around people like this. And so just to take that in mind as well, to think about how you can show them love that is physical in nature without necessarily being physical affection. So a nice dinner or a special treat, design types of experiences, music even can actually be important. So just to think about how the spectrum of physicality and how you can show your partner love in that way. So we just kind of had a quick overview of Chapman's love languages. And so let me talk about two others that I've kind of just seen over the years. One of them is emotional intimacy. And what emotional intimacy refers to is the experience of feeling deeply understood, emotionally safe, like your partner truly gets you. And as a friend, too, in addition to as a romantic partner. And, running through all of the love languages I've described, there's this kind of thread, right? Which is all of the love languages require a deep understanding of your partner, that gift giving, when it is meaningful, is really comes from this deep understanding and recognition and appreciation of your partner. But I think emotional intimacy is a more direct experience of all of those. And it can be confused with quality time, going and running around and doing things and having conversations. But, consider that a couple could spend a weekend camping and making the fires and going on the hikes and talking about things that are maybe not necessarily deeply meaningful conversations. They aren't sort of tinged with this, not necessarily vulnerability, but just like this experience of, I only tell these things to you. You are special. I am sharing with you my very important secret feelings. I'm not even sure how I feel about this yet, but I wanted to share it with you because it's coming up for me. And so it's having meaningful conversations and experiences that are emotionally safe. And it's like this experience of, I could tell you anything and it would be okay. I feel unconditionally loved and accepted by you for exactly who and what I am. It's okay for me to not be okay. It's okay for me to be in the messy middle of something and not actually know how I'm going to get to the other side, and just share that with you without you telling me what I should do or how to fix it, right? It's just like this shared space, this emotional space. And emotional intimacy people, they don't care as much about what they do or the stuff that's getting done or, even physical affection. It's really, they feel loved when you ask them how they're doing and then listen to the answer with empathy. When they feel that you care about how they're feeling, want to know, and are inviting them to tell you, that is really what makes them feel loved and connected and validated and appreciated. And they need that. So just know that. I will also add that for some people, that is a skill that needs to be developed. That's kind of in alignment with some of the emotional intelligence conversations that you and I have had in the past. And we can, create another topic on that specifically. But I just wanted to say out loud, if you don't know how to do that, that's okay. You can learn how to do that. And it is very important that you learn how to do that, is to communicate with your partner in a way that really fosters genuine emotional intimacy. Because without it, a relationship will wither and you won't know why. So not to be scary, but grizzled Gen Xer here who's seen a lot. You don't know what I've seen. Another and the last love language that we'll be talking about today that is not in the Chapman book is also this idea of building together. And so building together people can sometimes be confused with acts of service sorts of people, because building often requires many things to be done in order to achieve the big, hairy goals. But acts of service are more about feeling understood and respected, because your partner is like seeing the things that have to be done, and there's a sort of shared responsibility, and they can kind of step in to take something off your plate is what feels often most meaningful about that. Building together is a little different, because people who have a strong building orientation, they actually care less about the tasks and more about what it means and where you are going as a couple. So building equals shared commitment. And this can be actualized in tasks. So say your partner really wants you to do a budget with them, okay? It's not about doing the budget and okay, how much money are we going to spend in July? It's really around, we have shared hopes and goals for our financial future as a couple, and we are working towards something. And 10 years from now, this is what our life will be like because are doing these things today. So it's very like future oriented. It's making plans and then doing things in the present moment that kind of actualize those plans. So an acts of service person would be very happy if you painted the bedroom because it needs to be done. A building together person would be very happy to paint the bedroom because it will increase the resale value of this house. So when you sell it, you'll be better able to buy your actual dream home, which is this. And there's a magazine picture of it cut out on a little bulletin board that's the dream board. Like that's the building together person. So some of the activities can be the same, but the intentions and kind of the meaning behind it is pretty different. And so if you don't understand that about your partner, that these future plans and being in alignment about future plans are really how they feel loved and secure, and like that your partnership is forward moving, there's commitment, that's how they feel loved. So big, heady ideas. And thank you, though, for talking through these with me, because again, if you don't understand this and what's really happening underneath some of these little moments, like when your partner kind of comes in for a hug, or when your partner says, I think we should paint the bedroom on Saturday. It's like you can miss so much. And so I hope that this overview helps you understand more deeply kind of what's at the core. But now I also promised you a love language quiz, and I'm going to give you this quiz, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a pretty clear sense, as if you didn't already, but you'll have more clarity around your love language and that of your partner too. And it might actually be a fun thing, particularly if you're listening to this on your own right now. Send this to your partner, get them to listen through it, and get them to listen to the love language quiz so that they have more insight around their own love language and yours, so that they can show you love in the ways we're talking about too. Okay, let's do a love language quiz together now so that you can get clarity about your love language and that of your partner's. Here is question 1. You wake up on a beautiful Saturday morning and the first thing you want to do is ... What just popped into your head? Was it A, have sex with your partner? B, get in the car and go do something fun for the rest of the day? C, have a leisurely brunch with your partner and just talk about everything that's been happening lately, work stuff, life, friends? D, would you love to have your partner take care of the kids for a little while or handle another task so you can just go back to sleep for a few more minutes? E, are you waking up thinking about what wonderful things your partner might have in store for you today? Are you hoping that they might have made you breakfast? Is your hope that you might get a kiss and I love you so much from your partner who's just like laying there in bed beside you, just staring at you with love in their eyes and says, oh my God, you're so beautiful, even when you just wake up? Or when you wake up on a Saturday morning, is the first thought in your head thoughts about what are we going to do today? We need to get started on this big home improvement project. We need to go to the hardware store and get some stuff and, planning for the next big thing. Is that what your ideal Saturday would look like? So think about that. And in those responses, you are going to have some ideas about what your love language is. Okay, here's another one. Think about your upcoming birthday, your next birthday, and what you would most like your partner to do for you. Is it, first of all, plan a romantic, sensual evening? Or B, take you out to do something that you love, like going on a fun weekend, seeing a show, getting together with friends? Is it C, nothing fancy, just clear the calendar so they can spend the whole day connecting with you, going on walks, talking about what the last year has been like, what you'd like the next year to be like? Is it D, Would you love for them to handle all the to-dos so that you can take the day off and just, have some guilt-free self-care time? Go to the spa, get a pedicure, go ride your motorcycle. Are you wishing that they would surprise you with a thoughtful, meaningful gift? Bonus points if it's extra special and nicely wrapped? Are you wishing that they would give you a card or a letter that is just them pouring out all their heartfelt feelings for you? Or would you like your birthday to be all about they're connecting it with a milestone for your shared life together, that they would propose, that they would say, this time next year, you're going to be pregnant, or this time next year, we're going to be living in Los Angeles and you're going to have your dream job. And here's how we're going to do it. Is it celebrating the milestones and talking about what's next? Okay, next question. After a really rough day at work, just imagine you are drained, you're fried, you're frazzled, you're all the things. You're like, What do you really, really need from your partner? Is it A, a big long hug? Is it B, getting their help in shifting gears, like going for a walk together, watching a fun show, talking about vacation plans, saying like, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go for a ride, whatever. Or C, is it that you really, really want their full attention while you just talk about everything that happened, what's going on for me, how you feel about it, and feel like they really understand you and just why this day was so hard and what it feels like to be you? Is it D, after a long day, you would really like for them to figure out what the heck we're going to have for dinner and make it and then do the dishes so I don't have to deal with it and I'm just going to lay here on the couch and stare at a wall and somebody else is making my dinner. I don't care what it is. Is it E, you would love them to get you a little care package or special treat or nice thing that reminds me of that, like when you wake up tomorrow morning, there's a bouquet of flowers that can stay at your work desk all day so that you feel loved and cared for and they know that you're going through a hard time because you're looking at the flowers. If you have just had a hard day, do you love being reminded that you are strong and smart and competent and you are doing a really great job under difficult circumstances and all those people you work with are jerks and they don't appreciate you enough and you are amazing and you're going to get to the next level and just never have to talk to any of these people again. And I am on your side no matter what happens. Is that what you want? Or lastly, do you want from them a reminder that, we're doing this for a reason and our future holds something so much better. You're going to be in this place for 6 more months and then here's what we're going to do and here's what's going to happen after that. And this is just one step on the large and winding staircase towards our ideal life that we are building together. And I'm here with you in that. What do you want? Now, you might also be thinking that, I want all of those. Yes, please. I would like every single one of those things. And valid. That is absolutely valid. But what means the most to you? And so as you think through these, if you could only have one, what would it be? And then what would be the second most important thing for you? Because if everything is important, nothing is important. And this exercise is about how to get clarity around your love languages. So these are all nice, but think about which ones would be most meaningful for you. Okay, now, next question. What is your most favorite thing about your partner? Is it that they are a great kisser and hugger and they smell good and it feels wonderful to be with them and you love your sex life with them, that they make you feel really good? Or is your favorite thing about your partner that you guys are adventure partners? You have so much fun together, even if you're just out doing random things, they can make you laugh while you're in line at the grocery store, like that kind of thing. Is your favorite thing about your partner that you feel understood by them, that they really care about your feelings and they're your best friend and they know you inside and out and you can share anything and it is emotionally safe? Is your favorite thing about your partner the fact that they proactively take care of practical things in your shared life together just to make your life easier? Or is it that they are incredible about treating you with special things or experiences that make life worth living? Are they thoughtful and just like, bing, here's the cherry on top that you weren't even expecting, but somehow they just magically know exactly what to do? Or is it that you feel like your partner is your number one fan? They are always reminding you of how much they love you and appreciate you, and they're attracted to you, and they think you're smart, and they just fill up your cup with words of admiration and praise and affection. Or lastly, is it that your partner is really deeply committed to the vision of your shared life together, that you know your values are in alignment, you are going in the same direction, and you are actively creating a life that you both want? Okay, 2 more questions. The next question I have for you: what is one thing that you wish you had more of in your relationship with your partner? Is it wishing that you had more physical intimacy? Like, yes, hugs, kisses, but also I would like to have more sex. I would like to have more sex with my partner when I feel connected physically. That is when I feel closest to them. Or B, is it that you wish you had more fun together? You feel like your life has kind of got a little bit boring and you just wish that you had more opportunities to go out and do fun things and things that you both have a good time with. Or C, is it that you wish you had more emotional intimacy in your relationship? Deep, honest conversations that make you feel connected, more emotionally validated, less, maybe criticism, and more just like unconditionally positive emotional support? Or is it that you wish your partner was more proactive about day-to-day things, that you don't feel like everything was on you, everything from childcare to cleaning to just stuff that needs to get done? Do you feel like you're always having to bug them to do stuff instead of they're just noticing things that need to be done? Or is it that you wish your partner would put more thought and energy into thinking about what would be nice for you? If it was planning gifts or trips or even meals or evenings, like just feeling considered and that they were trying to make things special for you and nice for you, the way that you would make it special and nice for them. Or is it that you wish your partner was more positive about you, more demonstrative, more complimentary, more, expressive in their feelings of love and respect for you? Do you feel like you have to ask them to say something nice to you? Is that what you would like to have be different? Or lastly, do you wish that you and your partner had more shared hopes and dreams for the long haul, and that your partner was more actively involved in like building things with you? Is it hard for you to get them to talk about the future and what they'd like, and just so that you can feel like you're moving forward together? So, and just as an aside here in the quiz, and not to be certainly negative at all, but I think that considering our points of dissatisfaction with our relationships can also be very illuminating when it comes to understanding our love language and also that of our partner. Because if you have a love language that your partner either is not aware of or is different around, one of those things that I just said is probably going to be a little like, ooh, for you. And that's completely okay. It does not mean a bad thing about your relationship. It's a growth opportunity, right? That's why we're doing this, as always. And so, okay, very last question. And this is my Ikea relationship question. If you don't know what an Ikea is, it is a Swedish retailer. They sell furniture and home goods, and they're these giant like furniture stores, basically. And they are all over North America, Europe, Asia. If you live within 300 miles of an Ikea, you will be able to relate to this. But in the event that you haven't, as you listen to these questions, just think about another trip to a furniture or home goods store that you may have taken with your partner in the last year or two. All right. And so here's the IKEA question. And it is, virtually every couple has had a fight related to an IKEA excursion. It's like impossible to not do. I have had one. Everybody I know has had one. Now, the question is, what is the most likely thing to trigger your IKEA fight? Is it one, that you start feeling stressed out, frazzled, exhausted, overwhelmed, and or hungry, and like you just have got to get out of that IKEA ASAP into the light of day, but your partner wasn't done yet and you're like freaking out? Or is it B, when you start venting about how much you have hated wasting a day of your life trapped in an IKEA, you would so much rather be doing something else. This was a wasted day. We could have gone on a bike ride. We could have done anything, and I'm stuck here. And is that why you would have gotten in a fight? C, you get into fights about IKEA because you're not on the same page about what we thought we should get. And now we are in a fight about different perspectives, who was right, this is wrong, you are being ridiculous, and we were not in alignment. I thought we were here to get a new kitchen. You thought we were here just looking around. You think it's a bad idea to get a new kitchen. Miscommunication. D, your fights in IKEA are usually related to when you feel resentful that you are the one thinking about what we need. You are planning the decor, you are picking everything out, you are thinking about what would be a good thing to have in the kids' room, and your partner is present, but they are completely checked out and passive. They are not participating in decision-making. They're just standing there. They'll do something if you tell them to, but not until you tell them to, and it is just bugging the heck out of you. E, you would get in a fight in or about an IKEA because one of you thinks their stuff is cheap and that we should aim higher, but the other one of you thinks it's a good bargain, it's fine, it's just as good as anything else, really, and it doesn't cost that much. And, you know, what are you trying to do to our finances anyway? And there's big, vicious arguments about the quality of the stuff that you should have in your life. Or another IKEA fight reason is that you start to bicker when your partner is stressed out and getting really grumpy and impatient and irritable and just being negative and cranky and saying negative things and why are we here and blah, 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 and feeling like, you know, they're mad at you for being there at that IKEA and this isn't fun anymore and they should be nicer to you. Lastly, do you get in fights related to IKEA because you would love to go to an IKEA or anywhere for that matter and buy furniture together, but your partner doesn't want to because, you know, maybe they're not that committed? What does it mean that you don't want to buy furniture with me? Okay, let all those sink in. You may have gotten into an IKEA fight for a different reason than the one that I've described, but those are the big ones, and they are also the ones that are primarily related to love languages. Those questions, like everything else on this love language quiz, are in order. So there is, first of all, questions about physical affection. Then questions, number 2 answers are about quality time. The third question in line is about emotional intimacy, or the third answer, I should say. The fourth answer is about acts of service. The fifth answer is about gift giving. The sixth answer is about words of affirmation. And the seventh answer is about building together. And so as you write down all your questions, you may start to notice patterns in your answers. Was it, primarily the second question? Was it primarily the seventh question? And again, this is not a scientific score-based kind of thing, but, primarily if there are patterns around your answers, if you mostly resonated with number 1 and maybe secondarily number 6, you know that your love language is primarily physical affection and then also positive affirmations. And that's just something to know. But it's also really important to think about, how would my partner have answered these questions to the love language quiz. And better yet, instead of making assumptions, you could send this podcast and quiz to them, get them to listen and actually tell you, you know what, these are my love languages. These are the times that I feel truly loved by you. And this is what I wish I had more of for you in our relationship. Those can sometimes feel like challenging conversations, especially if there's defensiveness or like, that's not true. So let's try to avoid that as always. But just having open conversations about this can really open the door to understanding each other more deeply and being able to show each other the love and respect that you each deserve, and learn how to do so in a way that is genuinely meaningful to your partner. Because if you keep trying to show your partner love and respect in the way that's important to you and not in the way that's important to them, your efforts will fall flat. They will not feel loved and respected by you, and it will be to the detriment of your relationship. It's a pretty easy fix to turn it around, to know your partner better and to show them love in the way that's meaningful to them. And I sincerely hope that this podcast episode has given you some actionable guidance on how to achieve that in your relationship. So thank you for spending this time with me today. And as always, so much more for you at growingself.com. Come on over. We have all sorts of articles on the blog. We have relationship quizzes. We have other podcast episodes on things like communication, getting on the same page, healthy relationship skills, and so much more. So I hope you check them all out because they are all here for you. growingself.com. All right. Thanks, everyone. And I'll be back in touch next week with another episode.
You bring